job, Scott.
Hopefully not.
Scott Abel.
Few adjustments here. You can hear me. Can you hear in the back? Excellent. I'm going to start my timer. See if I can stay on track today. So thank you for joining me for the Future of TechCom Collaborating with Machines. Welcome to the TCOM conference. I'm so excited to be here, and I would like to say I'm fucking excited to be here. I am so glad that I'm able to use the F-bomb. You have no idea how many places I have been banned from for using the F word. So feel free to cuss at me anytime you like. So as I said, my name is Scott Abel. I'm the Content Wrangler. You can learn more about me by searching the web or not. I'm kind of known as the bad boy of content strategy, and that's probably because of all those F-bombs. But it's also because I don't take kindly to the fact that a lot of people in general are fearful of change. And as our opening talk indicated, change is just natural. It's part of what we should expect as human beings, regardless of our profession, and it's going to happen. And so sometimes I'm invited to places where I tell people about change and they're very uncomfortable to hear it, and then they never invite me back again. I live and work in San Francisco, California. I'm an evangelist for optimizing the content production process. So I'm all about how can we do the best work possible, not how can we maintain the status quo. I'm the creator of a series of books, the Content Strategy series of Content Strategy books from XML Press, so you can check that out online if you'd like. I'm also the co-creator of a conference called Information Development World, which is basically trying to collaborate with other content creators by calling ourselves information developers instead of worrying about whether we create marketing or technical or support information, because after all, customers don't care. My mantra is content is a business asset. It's worth actually managing effectively and efficiently. It is. It's an asset that should be captured in some way on the balance sheet so that companies understand the value. It's not our value, it's the value of what we produce, the product we produce. I'm a cat dad, many of you may be. I'm also an Aries, and I celebrated my 53rd birthday in Auckland, New Zealand. Yeah. I was super excited about that. I'm also an uncle and a sometimes tour guide in Northern California. I'm also a pescatarian, which is really important to the topic of today's presentation, which I'm pretty sure you're wondering, how could that possibly be related? So hopefully I'll do a good job of explaining. I'm a pescatarian, which means that I eat fish and vegetables and I don't eat other kinds of animals. And just like 35% of Americans and 32% of New Zealanders, I struggle with obesity. And this is an important fact because obesity is a leading cause of mortality, morbidity, all kinds of healthcare problems. It's also something that's scored. It's not a fake thing. It's something that there's a science behind. And the score is called the Body Mass Index. It's a calculation, so it's math, something that's often foreign to technical communicators. But in general, people who calculate these kind of things take measurements to determine whether or not you're obese. And obesity is not necessarily what you think it is. You can be obese and not even think that you're obese according to the mathematical calculation. So why is this a big issue? Why obesity? Well, more than 1 in 3 adults in the United States and also in New Zealand suffer from obesity. In fact, that's 78.6 million adults in the United States and 1.1 million in New Zealand. That doesn't account children, and it also doesn't account the other 1 in 3 people who are borderline obese. So the overweight category is like teetering on obesity, which pushes that number even higher. And it means that all the things that cost us as a society money are impacted by obesity. In fact, $210 billion in healthcare costs are attributed to obesity in the United States, $4.3 billion in absenteeism from work. It also introduces discrimination. It's a fact that overweight people actually make less money in many industries. They are often not selected for promotions. They can sometimes be discriminated against for housing. Transportation can be an issue. It also increases cost of insurance and health care and other things. That leads to a lower amount of revenue generation. So for people who are obese, they often are earning less money than their slenderer friends. Like many people, I struggle to maintain a healthy weight. I've had people in my family die of maladies that are related to obesity. And sometimes they're hereditary, sometimes they're behavioral causes. But I want to do everything that I can to avoid that. I don't want to die from that type of thing. I don't want to live the life that my relatives did. And so I hired a nutritionist, and his name is Manuel Villacorta, and he is hot. No matter who you are, if you know what hot looks like, Manuel will fit the bill. He's a trainer and a nutritionist. He's a super smart guy. He wants to put an end to obesity and help people all over the world. And in just 10 weeks, he helped me lose 22 pounds and 3 inches. And while I'm not where I want to be on my goal, I want to help Manuel with his. So Manuel sells expertise in the form of content. He tries to help people stay healthy by providing them with science-based nutritional information and other activity, kind of exercise and healthy living tips. He customizes them for you, or at least he tries to, and he tries to deliver them through his 3 channels. So he has multi-channel content delivery challenges. He has a book of recipes, he has an app, and he has a Facebook page where he shares all of his content all the time. His recipes are just like everyone else's recipes. They're designed to be read by humans. Makes kind of sense, doesn't it? Humans cook. But his recipes are not designed to be processed by computers at all. In fact, they're inconsistent, they're not machine ready, they don't have any of the content that machines expect, and so they can't take advantage of automation. These inconsistencies between the way that recipes are created seem like no big deal to humans, but they're a tremendous obstacle for machines to hurdle. And so it's better when we write to a standard and we do things in a standardized way and we declare them in a way that computers can understand so they can assist us in moving the content around. So Manuel's jobs is probably, like many technical communicators, it involves jumping through all kinds of hoops, copy and pasting, manual processes, editing the wrong document, sending things via email, sending a grocery list to me that his assistant typed up that said I needed to buy 10 pineapples when 1 pineapple was all I needed, and then they photocopied it and sent it to 32 other customers who bought 10 pineapples each. Grocery stores were wondering why the fuck were all the pineapples disappearing? All because of one little error, right? So his recipes are designed for me to consume, and they've got some flaws. And that's good for me, but he can't scale. He can't solve his problem because he's not machine ready. Now, Manuel could learn from the evil technical communicators, as we saw in the video earlier, which by the way was brilliant. He could adopt multi-channel publishing. He could learn to write it once and publish it often. He could adopt single sourcing strategies. Yes, he could. He could even read Anne Rockley's book, Managing a Unified Content Strategy, the Managing Enterprise Content, a Unified Content Strategy, which would teach him to create a repeatable method of content creation, to create consistently structured content designed for reuse, which would help him a little bit. And he can take it a step further. He could create intelligent content, which is reusable, modular, structured, semantically rich, and format-free. He could do all of that, and he would be faster. He could produce more content quicker and more consistently. He would get capabilities he doesn't have today. These are the things that organizations actually buy. They don't buy features and benefits. They buy capability. His content could be more discoverable, reconfigurable, and adaptable if he did those things. Making Manuel's recipes easy to find, quick to repurpose, and automatically adaptable would give him a leg up. It would allow him to start to compete with much bigger companies because obesity is a humongous problem worth a lot of money, which means there are many big companies trying to figure out how can we capitalize on this. That's the competition that Manuel is up against. So while repackaging his recipes and structuring them might be valuable, it's not enough to beat the competition. It's just simply not. He suffers from a problem that he has to kind of beat. He has to defeat that problem. And what he needs is something to differentiate him from everyone else so that he can actually compete. And what he needs is a secret weapon, something that addresses his biggest problem. And his biggest problem is Manuel's not scalable at all, just like many technical communication departments. His content productions do not support his goal to help eliminate obesity around the world. And Manuel's patients, by the way, they're not just patients, they're customers, and he recognizes that. And they have high expectations when they pay a top dollar to a professional nutritionist. And why shouldn't they? Right? Patients are customers. And we all, as customers, desire better experiences. We're surrounded by, frankly, mediocre experiences almost all the time. And we start to internalize that, and it starts to become normal for us to have less than delightful experiences. And so we start to assume that that's just, the way it is. And it doesn't have to be that way. In fact, humans seek extraordinary experiences, right? They want things that are rare. They want things that are phenomenal. They want things that are just, amazing. But there's nothing really extraordinary about how we create, manage, and deliver content today. In fact, I would say mediocre is stretching it for most of us. And that's because we make people search to find what they need. That we say, oh, we've made it very convenient for you. We've put all of our content in a PDF and put a search engine on it so you can find it. After all, that's what you want to do all day is search instead of delivering the content, delivering the right answer to the right person. That's the exceptional experience that we're after. And you know it when you see it because it's happened to each one of you. When you're on a cell phone or a mobile phone and you have that experience for the first time, you go, no way, that was so easy. How could that possibly be? And then you start to expect that everything else should work that way too. So there's a great mismatch between what customers expect and what we actually deliver to them. This is important for us to know because dissatisfaction damages brand. It doesn't damage the technical communication department, it damages the entire company from the perspective of the customer. Why is this? Well, customers don't want to read the fucking manual. They don't. Ask them. They will tell you. Seriously, this is a challenge. We all laugh about it. But they also don't want to call support. They don't want to use online help. They do not want to filter your search results. I know you think sometimes they do. They really don't. They don't want to navigate a decision tree. They don't want to download plugins. They don't want to complete forms. In fact, they don't want to learn your jargon at all. They don't want to do anything you should have done for them in the first place. But we don't. And Manuel's customers expect the same thing. They want an enjoyable, effortless way to get to better health care. So he's not going to be able to magically make them thinner and healthier, but he can make it easier and less error-prone and less time-consuming if he had some technology, something to help him, some kind of secret weapon. So how can Manuel reach his goal? How could he delight his customers? Well, let's take a look at a secret weapon he might be able to use. Cognitive computing. It's the simulation of human thought processes made possible by self-learning systems. These systems are in use today. They're not magical. They do not solve all problems, but they get smarter, better, and faster all the time. Cognitive systems learn, and they learn at scale. That means they can understand all kinds of structured and unstructured data, different languages, different formats. They don't have preferences. They don't have limitations built into them because it's a difference between one software company and another software company. They're meant to understand the bulk of the content and make sense of it. They're designed to reason with purpose. Think about that. A machine starts to reason over time after being taught. So it's a machine learning system, and every time you hear machine learning, you should hear machine teaching. Because machines need to be taught in order to learn and to master things, to make judgments, to make comparisons, to help you find ways to meet your goals. They can even hypothesize and predict a lot of different options. One great example I saw recently is that Autodesk software. Raise your hand if you know what Autodesk is. It's used by a lot of people who design architecture, but it's also used to design all kinds of products today. They have a new automated system where designers can design a building or a product and then ask the system to come up with 20 other variations. Sometimes things that they borrow from other building plans, sometimes totally new things from nature, suggesting could a building be built like a leaf structure in a plant? I don't know the answer to the question, but the software will propose all these in seconds. Meanwhile, they could spend months on one development plan, or they could use the software and develop 20 different options in a week, saving them significant time and money. So these are the kind of things that these systems can do. They're also designed to interact with human beings and behave in more similar ways to human beings. They are not human. They do not actually behave the way we do. But they're trying to make them more natural by allowing us to talk to them instead of typing. We do this already with phones. We talk to Siri, we talk to Alexa, we talk to our car. In fact, you can't even say Alexa's name in the room where Alexa exists because she thinks you're talking to her, which in humans, we kind of know the difference between when our name is mentioned and when our name is mentioned and they're trying to get our attention and they want us to pay attention. Machines don't know this yet. But that's because they have to combine other factors: speech recognition, facial recognition, gesturing, sentiment, and all of these things are actually being worked on today. Cognitive systems are not one thing, by the way. They're collections of functionality, collections of apps that can be weaved together to create an outcome. So it's about the creativity of the problem solvers, the people trying to solve the content challenges that matters. It's not so much the machines that you use. You can do things like text analysis, convert documents, machine translate. You can decide the tone of content. You can enforce rules and make authors actually not use words or tone that you don't want and help them, guide them toward the tone and the kind of content that you do need. You can convert that between speech and text in different languages and so forth. All right, that's a lot of jargon and mumbo jumbo coming from a technical communicator. So let's take a look at a practical example called cognitive cooking. Think of cognitive cooking as a mathematical formula like the body mass index I showed you earlier. In this case, it would be data plus human knowledge plus recipes equal cognitive cooking. So that's unstructured content, semi-structured content, structured content, any format, any language. The example was delivered at a TED Talk in San Francisco at IBM by Florian Pinnell, who is a culinary instructor, not an IT guy. They partnered with IBM and with some Culinary Institute chefs to conjure up a way to teach machines to generate better, healthier recipes for people individually delivered based on your profile. In this case, there was a machine that talked to people. One of those people was me. They got to ask me questions, and I'll walk you through them to give you an idea, and then they produced, with the machine's help, new recipes designed specifically for me and the other people that the machine interviewed. That's called conversational commerce. It's a two-way natural communication between a machine that's listening to my voice, translating to text, searching the databases, making some comparisons, and bringing back suggestions to me in voice again. It understands and it remembers, and then it uses the information that it collects. That's important. We're all able to record it. We can turn on a recording device right now and make a tape or a recording on our phone. But that doesn't mean that we're going to do anything with it. Nothing else happens from there. But with these systems, they're actually married to the content. They can actually search through and find answers for you. Just as an aside, there are two companies that do this fairly well. One of them is 1-800-Flowers.com. They have an application called Gwyn. Get gifts when you need them, or something like that. GWYN. It's a conversational commerce application. So search the web for that and take a look at what they're doing. Also, the North Face, the clothing company, they have an app that you can get from the iPhone store that actually talks with you and goes back and forth so that it can eliminate all the products that are not within the sphere of your interest and deliver only relevant recommendations. All right, back to cognitive cooking. What data could Manuel collect to help him deliver better, healthier recipe and nutritional information content that would differentiate him from the competition? Here's a few ideas. Taste preferences. My fondness for sweet foods or salty foods or savory foods or spicy foods. This is important because if the food isn't alluring to you, you're probably not going to eat it. Dietary requirements, not preferences. These are not optional. Maybe there are things you're allergic to. Maybe there are things you have to do to avoid some other condition. Dietary preferences, the things you prefer. Like if you have a religious reason not to eat a particular food, or a moral or ethical reason. Maybe your work habits. Do you take breaks? Do you have good work-life balance? What about your stress? Lifestyle. Do you exercise? What are your sleep patterns? What other risk factors do you have? Communication. How do you like to learn? How do you like to cook? How do you like to receive recipes? Do you like to read them? Do you like to search for them? Do you like them to be read aloud to you? What do you like? And family history. Things like diseases, conditions, and risk factors that are present because of who you are and your genetics. In fact, DNA from 23andMe or Ancestry.com are perfect examples of scientific data that can be used that's specifically about you. And when you take your treatment data and your healthcare data and your labs and medications and you put it all together, somebody would have to know all of those things to be able to provide you with the right kind of diet. That's a lot of information for one human being. He would have to know, Manuel would have to be an expert in all those areas, which is nearly impossible. He would also have to keep pace with scientific research. For example, are there certain foods that people are studying that can lead to preventing a certain condition that you're predisposed to getting? He would have to know that as well. But when you take all this data and you put it together, when you take the things that are personal about yourself, and when you take the public information, the research reports, the medical journal articles, all the research that's going on out there, statistics, actuarial data, you could actually combine that and make a solution that works. The result would be, he would be able to provide content designed just for you, not for anyone else, only for you. And that would totally differentiate him from all of the major nutritional companies that are out there that are big money companies, because they've yet to be able to tackle this either. But that's not all. What if Manuel could connect his services to the services of other pre-existing companies that are already doing things like this? That could help. So for example, we just talked about data collection and recipe recommendations and taking all this information and merging it together. But what if you merge it with Manuel, who has a personality and a brand and an allure? So you take him and you take the cognitive computing solution, and then you take a company like Blue Apron, who in the United States, I'm not sure if they're here yet, they do home delivery of food, just the right quantity and just the right recipes. Unfortunately, they don't write standardized recipes because they don't understand structure. So while they're human readable, they're not easy to process, and they're expensive to make, because they're high, glossy, beautiful things developed in one way. They can't multi-channel publish. They don't know how to do any of this. But they do things that are really smart that I don't know how to do, or technical writers might not know how to do. They make deals with farms in local areas to get produce. They can somehow get it shipped there safely, clean, package it up, and then they have to deal with Federal Express or some other company that can deliver those to your home. So by marrying all those services together, you start with you, with your problem. You have a professional who helps you, who uses science and mathematics and software and artificial intelligence to connect the right food orders for you that get delivered by a different company. So it's like a giant API connecting all three of these different kinds of services together. What if you could do that? What if you could connect your content directly to your customer in a way that's meaningful to just that person? Now, not all technical communication is probably applicable to this. I mean, maybe I could be convinced otherwise. But there's a lot of technical communication content that misses the mark, that fails to get directly to the right person who needs it. In fact, we're often presented with information we don't need, right? It'll say, if you're doing this, then, if you're on a Macintosh, do this. If you're doing that, okay, why? You know I'm not on a Macintosh, or I am on this particular day. But let's assume that there were some differences there. We want to be able to exclude the things that are not important. And you can do this, you really can. You will need some things as technical communicators that we might not have today. First, you have to have that willingness to learn. You have to be able to step outside the box. You have to learn new things. And you have to be able to do it without the expectation of an immediate return on investment. This is a learning opportunity. It will be like research and development kind of cost, and this is hard for some companies. You'll have to have top leadership support. Somebody will have to stand up for you. and make the case if you're not the leader. And you're going to have to be able to probably connect it to an improved customer experience, something that's measurable that you're actually going to be able to connect to in the end. To do that, you're going to need budget, which we all know. There's budget for time, tools, software, and training. But you also need something that I don't think a lot of technical communications departments have. You need a disruptive mindset. You need to fucking go in and shake some shit up. That's what you need to do. The time is over for us to sit there and just wait to see how we can be commoditized. As far as I'm concerned, it's time for us, unless you're very comfortable in your career, nearing the end of your work life, and you think, why the fuck do I want to learn anything new? I'm retiring next month. I say, yes, cheers. We'll be drinking with you in the bar later. But if you're not, and you're in a position where you think you're going to be around for a little while, I would say it's really important for you to try to shift the way you think about content and its value and how you should play a role in whether you're just creating it, should you be formatting it, should you be helping deliver it, why is the question. So you need kind of an innovation mindset. And in order to do that, you have to become a hybrid of an entrepreneur. You have to become entrepreneurial, but inside your organization. You need to turn your ideas into something profitable that will help your company generate revenue. It can't just be about savings. It has to be connected. Nobody's ever been fired for fucking selling shit. Like, that does not happen. We get fired because we're not selling things. We get fired because products are not conforming to expectations. We get laid off because of somebody else's poor decision way upstream. It had nothing to do with us. But it's not good for us to be the victims of that, right? We have to be active participants in our own career. So cognitive computing is in its infancy right now. You can learn a lot about machine learning just by searching the internet or watching television. You're right, it was on 60 Minutes last night. This is not going to go away. Now, the flip side is, it's sometimes presented as being magical. So there's a huge amount of machine learning going on in the world. There are going to be huge flops, horrible, stupid examples, just like the beginning of the web, or the beginning of apps, or the beginning of mobile phones. After a while, we develop best practices, etc. The best company, who is the best at communicating the potential value of this, is IBM, in my opinion. That does not mean IBM will win this war. It does not mean they will be the best technology for you in the future. And it doesn't mean anything like that. So I'm not doing a commercial for them, but I'm going to show you 2 videos real quickly that basically explain, I think in simple terms, how these technologies can be used to help you in the future. Let's take a look at this. I think you'll agree, they're pretty good at explaining it. To me, the first time I saw that, I thought, oh, this is going to change everything. Because we're so married to being the source of the knowledge that I think sometimes we forget that there might be a better way to cull everything together, to bring it together, to help hypothesize what a better answer would be. I mean, all one needs to do is look at frequently asked questions and realize that there's nothing about frequency related to that. They're made-up questions we think people might want to know the answer to that we seldom revisit. Frequency is what happens when you open up iTunes and you see what the #1 purchased song of that moment is. And then when you close iTunes and you open it 2 hours later and find out that song's not #1 anymore. That's frequency. Frequency of activity, frequency of purchase, frequency of query. Go to a support department and ask the support people about how many people call about how many things and what are they to quantify them. And then look at our efforts to produce information and see if they match. Retroactively, we try to go back and fix that. We try to bring it back upstream again. But what if we could just have a system in place that's telling us this the whole time, and maybe even going out and looking for answers for customers on purpose using the power of computing? I think that's the future. I can't see companies continuing to pay people to do the things that they're doing today. Do I think we'll all lose our jobs? No, I do not. Do I think some people will be laid off or let go? Yes. Do I think they'll get the same job again with the same pay scale? No. I think they'll make less money. In this industry, the writing part is going to be commoditized. Now, that means if you have niche knowledge, that's really good. It's a protection factor to prevent you from being replaced. if you have deep experience in something that other people don't have, or you care to learn things that are very complicated or challenging or limited in the number of people who know them, that protects your value. But it doesn't protect you from automation. And so I think we have to figure out, how can we prepare our content to be ready for automation? How can we add structure to it? Now, you heard that Watson will process unstructured content too. But earlier I reminded you, when you hear machine learning, you will hear machine teaching. And you saw the curator role. That's somebody who knows. So in the case of, let's say, the elections of the United States, we would need a curator to prevent fake news from making its way through the systems, right? Those are the things that machines can't do. We need people to help guide them. Over time, they can start to make lessons from our human interactions, and they can start to guess very intelligently. And as we approve those guesses and we say, yes, that's correct, that's what we want you to do, that's the kind of answer we want, those systems will get smarter, and they'll be able to deliver our content. So the question usually becomes, if Watson and other systems can understand structured information, why the hell do we create XML content? Why do we structure it? Why do we bother to use data? Why do we bother to have semantically rich topics that have identifications that machines can understand? And the reason is because it helps with the learning process. It basically is the cheat sheet. Structured, semantically rich content is easier for machines to understand. We can teach them universally. When you see this, it means that. When you have a bunch of unstructured content written by different people in different ways without any control, you have to use the approach that Watson showed on the video. So I'm going to skip this second one. I'm actually not going to show this. I think that if you'd like, you should look up how it works, IBM Watson Health, and there's a great example in there about cancer. So before we take questions from the audience, so whoever has the microphones, thank you very much. Okay, you're ready. I'm going to ask you to do something for me. So this conference is about collaboration. So let's work together. In San Francisco, just less than a couple of days ago, there was a thing called the Launch Festival. It's an app competition run by a very successful Silicon Valley entrepreneur. He brings together thousands of app developers, and they compete in a contest for prizes and potentially, fame and money, investment money. They put together a bunch of apps, and while apps are not necessarily going to be around forever, they are still part of our life today. And one of my friends created one that is called Clipisode. And I want you to help me create some video content. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to help me create a video talk show. One of you actually already has, because I have sent some invitations out privately before today via LinkedIn. I want you to do these easy instructions. From a mobile device, preferably a phone or a tablet, I want you to go to this URL, bit.ly, bit.ly/TCNZ 2017. I'm going to keep showing this. It's also on the board over here in the red type on the whiteboard. I want you to do this sometime if you can, if you're not shy, in the next day. I want you to tell me what your biggest content challenge is. So when you go to this URL, you won't need an app, so just dial it up on a web browser. You're going to see a little video of me, and you're going to push the play button, and I'm going to ask you the question, what's your biggest content challenge? You're going to press the reply button. It's going to ask you for permission to use your camera and your audio, and if you give it permission, you can make a little video response. So the question is, what's your biggest content challenge? You're going to leave me a video response. I will produce a collaborative video featuring your responses, and I will do so in 30 seconds. I won't have to edit any video. I won't have to open up any software applications. I will do it all from inside in my hand, in my iPhone. I will have all of the submissions presented to me on my phone. I will swipe right if I want it, swipe left if I don't. They will all stay included in there, and I will record a little video summary and then present at the end of the conference the results of our effort. Now, this is a beta test. It could go horribly wrong. The software can crash. The developers are actively making changes based on what they learned at this big conference. By the way, they won the competition. But they're making changes to the product. But I think we've got them stable enough that this will allow us to make an example of how we can create content quickly by collaborating. Brands' number one problems when you ask marketing people is the inability to produce the amount of content they need for all the various purposes. I believe it's probably a technical communication problem too. Marketers are rewarded differently than we are, and so they're rewarded at the beginning of the process. How many people did they attract? How many people downloaded? How many people purchased? They don't get penalized later when people buy the product and are woefully disappointed and then want to return it, right? Technical communicators are probably often rewarded by meeting the deadline, but sometimes that means that we don't get to put all the content in that we want. And I think it's because a lot of our processes are uniform. We do everything the same way. So I don't think we should create high-value collateral using an app where we all collaborate to make a video. Maybe we do need regular TV cameras and makeup crews and lighting and appropriate budget to make them. But that doesn't mean that all content that's video needs to be made that way. And so I'm trying to figure out how can we learn and collaborate together with these little ideas that might give us a bigger idea later how we can serve our customers. So on Tuesday at 3:50, you'll come to the session, if you'd like, for a conversation with the Content Wrangler, and you can ask me questions about that. I'll show the video, we'll talk some more about collaboration, and see where that leads us. Okay, so thank you very much. How about questions?
Hi, Scott.
Hello.
Thanks very much. The Google Translate service has...
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
The Google Translate, yes, thank you. The Google Translate service has gone through some major changes using neural networks and using some of these patterns that you've talked about where words are related to other words. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, my Google understanding is limited, so I'll share with you what I do know. So I participate and run conferences. I'm not a conference organizer by trade. So I started running conferences, and when I did, I had to meet people from companies like Google, etc. And one of the things I learned was maybe I could be useful inside other people's conferences, not just a conference organizer. So I offered myself up to translation and localization conferences. I currently run the content track at Localization World in Asia, Europe, and North America, so 3 times a year. At those conferences, they talk a lot about translation. This would be akin to technical writers talking about automation is bad because it would replace us. So translators are like, ooh, Google Translate sucks. Like no matter what the answer is, it sucks. Because they see it as translation that's machine generated that will replace them. So they use the typical examples of bad translation to explain away why you shouldn't do that. There's a certain amount of truth to that, but like our content, we have to prioritize what we're going to invest in paying top dollar for translation or creation and what we're going to use a machine to do that we could maybe do for free or cheap, or at least less money, hypothetically. That doesn't factor in whether there's errors, etc. So the learning that Google had been doing was both in text and voice in the past. In the United States, probably 5 or 6 years ago, they canceled a service that they used to have where you could call information like a directory assistance on the phone. I think we don't really use that directory assistance anymore, where you call an operator and ask for somebody's telephone number. But in the interim, for like 10 years, they used this service. And the reason that they did it was they wanted to record our voices. They wanted to hear us mad, happy, drunk, irritated, right? And they wanted to be able to confirm that they understood all these voice patterns. So you would say, I would like the number for whatever, and they would say, I think you said this. If you did, press 1 or say yes, and then they validated all those patterns. Well, they've done the same thing with using statistical analysis of success of translation through machines. Like whenever they see this word pattern, the most often the translation is this. Now, that means that those systems can be played. They can be tricked. I can upload a lot of bogus translations to the system, and if I overload the algorithm, which they're smart enough to catch now, I could probably not make it as valuable. But they've made recent changes where they're trying, as you've mentioned, where they're trying to take this machine learning and these other systems and merge them together. So it's not clear whether Google Translate is the product that they're trying to create, or if that's just the presentation that they're giving to us that allow us to do those things. Now, people who work in agile development environments, especially app developers at the conference like Launch that I just described a minute ago, they love this idea because they don't know anything about content. They don't know anything about ambiguous terminology. They don't care about the cost of translation. There's no budget item there, right? So their immediate gravitation is, oh, we need language. Just hook up that Google Translate thing. It'll be good enough. Okay, just last week, some company lost millions of dollars in a lawsuit you probably heard about, where there was an Oxford comma in the wrong place. Yeah, that does matter in that instance, but it might not in your invitation to the conference. Right? So I think those systems are starting to play a role, but you're going to see it be sliced off to like a commodity product that might be attractive to all kinds of lower end audiences, and then probably higher end systems as well. Now, they use a hybrid approach, not just statistical. When you look at translation, there are different types of systems. Some are rule-based, which says this is dog in this language, this is dog in that language. When dog equals this, dog equals that. But there are opportunities for kind of learning more, because we would have to make a rule for every single language pair in order for the system to only use rules. So it starts to cull the internet and make assumptions about the content and inferences based on the linguistic organization. So I think you're going to see products that are clones of that, products that can't do as much as Google Translate, products that can do way more than Google Translate, and the price points are going to be all over the place. I'll give you a great example. I have a client who has some really well-intentioned IT people who love APIs. So they said, we'll just connect the Google Translate API to our website, and we'll translate everything for you. Oh, by the way, it's free. Okay, I was like, there's nothing free. You'll quickly learn this is a mistake. And of course they did, because the one thing that really matters on their website, when people from different countries visit this US website, there are laws in those countries that we are violating, right, because of the content that we have. So when we explain the copyright statement or our policies or any kind of legal mumbo jumbo, we're explaining it in English and we're explaining it in American law. If you only use Google Translate, all you're doing is translating an American law, which is irrelevant in Germany, into German. And you're doing it half-assed, right? Half the words are wrong, and then the wrong order. And so I think you're going to see machine learning coupled with expertise, that curator role, to teach the system close, but not 100%. Let me help you. Over time, your corpus of intelligent information that has rules associated with it will grow, and the machine will start to extrapolate and make different decisions about your content. So I think you're going to see Google is a major player. I wouldn't be surprised if Salesforce is a major player. Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, a couple of Facebook, a couple of others will also be playing in that area. That help? Okay. Any other questions? Don't be shy. Yes, in the back. She's going to need a microphone.
So the example you gave of Manuel Scott, that was a fairly clear example where doing this kind of intelligent and cognitive computing type stuff could definitely add value to his business, where he could charge for it. I have more trouble seeing how do you charge for this model in something like my company, which sells equipment, and the support documentation it's sold, I guess, as part of the equipment, but in effect it's a cost to the company. Could you comment on that, please? How do we make the company prepared to spend money on us?
Yeah, so there's no easy, there's no one size fits all. The main challenge of applying these tools and technologies to our content is not the tools or the technology, it's the creativity of us. It's our limited thinking about it. That's why I suggested that we have to step outside of our box and think about it. So, for example, inherent in saying that content that is associated with a product is an extra or an evil means that it's a separate thing. And my whole question is, why is the information separate of the product in the first place? Why aren't the product and the product development teams and the technical communicators working together to say, that's stupid, why don't you just make the software do that instead of making me actually explain why it doesn't? right? So if you have machine learning systems to help you, you might be able to leverage all the content that's inside your company and provide a better experience than your competitors. Or let's say you're behind your competitors. They have more money, more resources. Like Manuel has fewer resources. Maybe you could find a way to teach the system to go through the other department's content, for example. It's your content, you're in control of it as a brand. And maybe you could actually start to marry up different kinds of content together and present them in a single layer. Maybe you could allow people to ask the question instead of type it. Those are things that are small that would differentiate your brand from another brand who doesn't do that. That's the kind of thing that, in my experience, upper management buys. They buy capability, adaptability, findability, and reusability. All these things lead to savings, and some of them lead to sales. Your, I think, challenge is how do you connect it to sales? So a printer company is a great example. Printer companies are a lot like MRI companies. They both make a device with a very low profit margin. So printers are very inexpensive, MRIs are very expensive. But neither one of those devices make a lot of money on the devices themselves. They make it on services and ancillary products. So toner is a big deal for printers. That's where they're making their money. They're making it on toner. But in order to use a printer, you need a printer driver and you need paper. But the printer company usually will make the toner and they usually are in control of the driver, but they don't have a relationship with the paper company, nor are they a paper company. So you begin to wonder, why isn't this packaged up as a service? Why am I not making a deal with the big paper company that you can buy a printer and then for $49 a month you can get reusable toner, automated updates of your software drivers, and a special deal on paper. So if I were shopping for convenience, if I was convenience oriented, I would want that. The MRI example is they have to calibrate those machines. So field service is where they make the money. So field service involves technical documentation. What happens when technical documentation can help them make money? So the company sends a field service representative to a hospital. They have all the technical documentation with them. They have a van or a truck with parts that they could use to repair the MRI. They first have to pull up at the hospital. It's not like you pull up in your driveway of your house. You might have to park blocks away or in a parking garage somewhere, and then you walk into the hospital and you have to find your way to the department where the MRI machine is hidden, and then you have to do a diagnosis, and then you realize, I'm going to need a part. So you go all the way back to your truck to see if it's in the truck. Then you come all the way back to the client and you explain, I would like to do this, will you approve it? It's going to cost this much. So that back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and then you realize it's not in the truck, you have to go back to the warehouse and get it. That means that the number of transactions and repairs that they can bill their customer for is limited to all this back and forth that they have to do. But what if your content was connected to the truck inventory, and the truck inventory was connected to the warehouse inventory? And now I show up and I have an iPad with a 3D image. I take a picture of the MRI machine. It identifies it with pattern recognition. This is the model on which I'm working. It pulls up a 3D image. You tap on the 3D image. You look at the physical item and you say, I think this black charred area might be where it caught on fire, right? You touch that part of the graphic, that pops up the documentation about how to analyze it, how to disassemble it, how to dispose of it, how to put the new part in. Okay, but you still have to go back to the truck. But what if the documentation can say, lucky for you, I'm connected to the internet, there's inventory in your truck, you have that piece. So then you can just show the iPad to the customer without ever having to go back. The point is, you can get approval for it, go to the truck once, get the thing, fix the thing, go back to your truck. You can probably squeeze one more appointment in every day because the documentation talked to the inventory system. But better than that, the inventory system also from the truck talks to the warehouse. So the warehouse knows the truck is coming back and it's going to be short that part that you installed into the MRI. So the inventory will automatically order another part, so when the truck comes back in, they can just put it back in. So by optimizing around content and using intelligence, the company can get 25% more field service visits with no more employees, no more money, no more spending. So they're trying to find creative ways. That's what I can't help you with because I don't know enough about your company, but I think if you start to think outside the box, where content plays a role, whose job is impacted by content, you can look for opportunities to optimize. Other questions? Okay, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Hope to see you later on.